Welcome to SVG-TV News for Friday, August 13, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Two opposition activists were arrested this afternoon. They are teacher Adriana King and suspended prison officer Kenson King. The arrest comes almost a week after the police carried out raids of the homes of several alleged opposition supporters and activists. Adriana was reportedly arrested at her home, while Kenson was arrested on the streets of Kingstown. One of their lawyers, Kate Bacchus-Batiste, spoke to SVG-TV News via a telephone interview on what may have led to their arrest.
Kenson says that he was met by RRU on the road, and they took him up and took him into the police station. He's currently at the Kittels police station. Adriana, at her home, the black squad turned up, over 6 of them, with the same thing, that they need her for questioning. So she has a baby girl of just 6 years old. I am not sure what they allowed her to do because she was alone with her daughter. So I'm in the process of organizing to see which lawyers I can get to visit where, because I'm sure they probably come in for other people. This is clearly a political plot, a political victimization. We are quite clear of that, and so we would be trying to see how many lawyers we can have on standby to visit the various persons at the various police stations.
Bacchus-Batiste noted that the two were being held for questioning in relation to an incitement investigation. She said the two activists will probably be kept in police custody over the weekend. The defense lawyer said Vincentians must be vigilant and watch closely the events that are taking place.
I want St. Vincent, the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to understand what is at play here. It is clear that the administration is upset because we pulled off a very successful protest concerning the issues, that is the Cornelius John issue, the missing $95 million, and the mandatory vaccine. It is unfortunate that there was that mishap with the Prime Minister, but that was not the plan of the organizers. The main thing is that they are upset, and now they're using that to intimidate the organizers. Very clear to us. They have committed no offense. All they're doing is robustly defending the right to justice and democracy in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I'm confident that this will not deter them. In fact, it will bolster and encourage others to join in the protest.
The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines does not have a policy or mandatory or compulsory vaccination against COVID-19. However, there are several provisions in the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines which permit a requirement for vaccination against COVID-19 for particular jobs or jobs generally. This has been stated by the Office of the Prime Minister in a statement issued today, which said the government, however, intends to make rules under the Public Health Act to do the following, among other things: offer the choice to frontline workers, for example, doctors and nurses, police and prison officers, employees at the airports and seaports, including customs and immigration officers, and if the employee fails and or refuses to comply with the requirement for those specific jobs, he or she is free to choose employment elsewhere, noting that such a failure or refusal may constitute misconduct. According to the statement, other central government employees and those in public enterprises who are not frontline workers who are not fully vaccinated will be required to take the PCR test every 2 weeks. The employer, the state, will provide the first 2 tests free of charge. The subsequent tests will be paid for by the employee, and for any reason a vaccinated public sector worker requires a test for whatever reason, the test will be provided free of cost. The Office of the Prime Minister further pointed out that despite the non-mandatory nature of the government's policy, it should be made clear that the Constitution, the common law and the statute law permit mandatory or compulsory vaccination in the interest of public health and general public interest, especially during a very risky pandemic or public health emergency. He said in these circumstances, the courts have always accepted established science and facts on the vaccines and have balanced any conflicted rights in favor of public health and public interest as advanced by the state as employer, noting that the legal exceptions to mandatory vaccination have been recognized as facts-based medical exemptions and religious exemptions. He noted that both the common law and statute law justify the private sector employers adopting a similar stance on the matter as the government. The Office of the Prime Minister further stated that the government continues to promote the desirability of vaccination as a vital tool against COVID-19, and in this regard, the government is at one with the stance of the World Health Organization and the position of all 193 member countries of the United Nations, noting that SVG has a sufficiency of vaccines to vaccinate the adult population over 18 years. It said available are the AstraZeneca and Sputnik vaccines, and shortly SVG will receive a grant of Pfizer vaccines from the U.S. government. Opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday said that there are several issues with the amendments to the Public Health Amendment Act, which were approved by Parliament last Thursday, August 5th. On an NDP's radio program last night, the opposition leader said one of the main issue with the amendments is the government will be able to remove the measure for voluntary immunization response to public health emergency,
which makes it so that the government removes the measure which allows for voluntary immunization in response to public health emergency, to make it so that it's not restricted to a voluntary immunization program. The word voluntary is removed. That is in section 43A2 of the Act. So voluntary is removed so that it's now that the program can be mandatory. And so the question is asked, why remove voluntary? And this is an act from a bill that they just passed, an act that passed just last year, in April of last year.
Speaking on the vaccination exemptions, Dr. Friday said the bill now an act narrows very severely the requirement for exemption on medical grounds.
The act now basically removes the requirement, or at least the exemption on the basis of religious grounds, and then narrows very, very severely the requirement or the exemption on the basis of medical grounds. What it does, it just eliminates it completely for personal beliefs. You can't get an exemption on personal beliefs anymore. So religious freedom, conscience is out the window. And secondly, on the other component is that if you're seeking to get an exemption on medical grounds, then you have to, you see a doctor that is has to be approved by a government medical officer. And if that person gives you an exemption, that is still not the final story. You have to then, it goes to the CMO, the chief medical officer, who can then say to you, well, I don't accept that opinion of your doctor that you have just provided me.
The opposition leader said having Parliament approve the amendments is just one stage, with other stages to go, including having the Governor-General assent to the amendments. Dr. Friday noted that several unions have already written to the Governor-General urging her not to let the matter go forward.
Under the Constitution, the next stage is for the bill to be sent to the Governor-General for assent. That is part where the Governor-General essentially, under, I believe it's section 43 of the Constitution, is required to assent to bills that are brought to her attention. And then it is published in the official gazette. When it is published in the official gazette, it becomes law, effectively. So those are the stages left. I know that the Teachers Union have written to the Governor-General urging her to take an interest in this matter and pointing out a number of grounds on which this bill should not go forward, and urging her to use her position. She can certainly raise the matter with the government and to do what she can from the weight of her office to bring it to bear to represent what is the vast majority, the wishes of the vast majority of the people of this country.
One new COVID-19 positive case was reported from 174 samples processed on Wednesday, August 11, 2021, resulting in a positivity rate of 0.6%. No new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 44 cases are currently active and 12 persons with COVID-19 have died. 2,308 cases of COVID-19 and 2,252 recoveries have been recorded in SVG since March 2020. The health authorities say in view of the increased risk of infection with and subsequent transmission of COVID-19 posed by the growing incident of variants of concern in persons entering St. Vincent and the Grenadines, strict compliance with all protocols and recommendations, including the effective use of masks, physical distancing, hand sanitizing, and immunization with the available vaccines is strongly recommended. In other news, the UWI Seismic Research Center is now evaluating its crisis communication, which commenced just before the explosive phase of the Lasso Freya volcano. Head of the Educational Outreach Team, Stacey Edwards, is currently on island to conduct the assessment. She will partner with the Cambridge University to analyze data collected. The launch of the online survey starts today.
Specific communities collecting information, having people fill out surveys, and the idea is that the people who may not have access to the internet or who may not be willing or interested or able to fill out an online survey, we're hoping to reach those people by going to them in person. So we've enlisted 4 data collectors here in St. Vincent, 2 of whom are from NEMO, and they will be going around to various communities conducting these surveys with groups of people that we figure may not be able to access the survey online. Although I must emphasize that, again, we're particularly interested in understanding whether or not our messages would have been received by those folks in the red and the orange zones.
Other components of the research and analysis involve meeting with stakeholders and visits to properly identify communities in the red zone.
We're going to be conducting focus groups with groups from Fancy, Chateau/Fitzhughes, then another 2 focus groups in Kingstown and Caliqua, as well as the Georgetown area. And those will be small groups of people, again, who we'll be having conversations with to get their feedback on the communications during the eruption. And the third component of the project will involve interviews with specific stakeholders. And so these will be people who would have been part of the NUC, so FINLEC and BRAXA, Health, and those other stakeholders.
The data collection will come to an end on August 27th. According to Edwards, the research and analysis is expected to improve on communication during a crisis specific to SVG.
The idea is to identify gaps, to see what worked, what didn't work, and more specifically, we really want to have an understanding as to whether or not the messages that we would have communicated at the Seismic Center actually reached people in St. Vincent, how well those were received, and the spread of those messages. Because we do know that, of course, with any communication strategy or any communications plan, you will have gaps. And so the idea is to identify some of those gaps and to use that information to strengthen the strategy.
Persons are encouraged to participate in the online survey, which is open to everyone on the mainland. Lead scientist monitoring Lasso Freya volcano, Professor Richard Robertson, said that the trail leading to the volcano is still unsafe for hikers as there are debris and other hazards leading up to the summit. Professor Robertson said that at the summit, the gas continues to emit with an average of 200 tons per day. He advised that persons, especially those from the red zone, to continue to be patient and wait until all clear is given to reoccupy their homes.
The main hazards continue to be related to the hot areas that still remain at the summit. Both the hot rock itself and also the steaming, which is going to be very hot. And the conditions up there really generally are very unstable because, you lots of loose material. When you have rain, it's going to gully erosion, lots of gullies all over the place. The path is going to be unclear. So not a very safe place for people, even the best hikers. And then the other hazard is really for the lahars down the lower slopes as the material comes down. So that's the thing that people have to kind of look out for in coming months. The lahars, and really avoiding going up to the summit, at least for now, because it's pretty dangerous still.
The lead scientist and his team were hoping to check up to the summit today, but he said the weather condition did not permit them to do so. In the meantime, they are working on aerial remapping of the volcano. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Narissa Gittins-Macmillan, said that they have recognized that the continued decline of agriculture will significantly impact the economic and social viability of rural communities, and if left unchecked, will likely result in further deterioration of real income and an increase in the poverty rate in rural communities. Speaking at the launching ceremony of the Community Profiles and Livelihood Baseline Assessments yesterday, the Permanent Secretary said that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is recovering from a series of threats in recent times with the COVID-19 pandemic, dengue fever outbreak, and the eruption of La Soufrière volcano, which have placed a tremendous strain on the management of the resources of the country. She said the tourism sector has become decimated, placing agriculture at the forefront of the recovery effort, and outlined some of the things that the ministry is doing to help in this regard.
Getting a younger, more diverse cohort of farmers becomes critical. The public's expectation of the ministry are many. With limited resources, this demands strategic planning and execution of policies for maximum impact. The ministry has been building resilience in the sector by assisting farmers with water harvesting and conservation for crops and animals. Thus far, several water tanks have been given to both plant and livestock farmers. This would assist not just for the current disasters, but also for drought and other cyclonic impediments.
Gittins-Macmillan said the data has shown that there will be more frequent and stronger weather systems in the region, and the ministry has to be more robust in its preparations.
Plant materials that are more resistant and tolerant to pests and diseases. Though the Biodiversity Center at Orange Hill has been severely damaged as a result of the volcanic eruptions, we are nevertheless able to assist through the use of the Dumbarton and Walliloo stations, as well as assistance from regional organizations such as AICA and FAO. There is currently an active and ongoing program of improving and increasing farm mechanization, introducing innovation and digitization through the use of tractor service. Soon, we will be utilizing the Cobalt Toolbox online data platform. This will speed up the process with fewer resources.
The PS further noted a recent problem identified, that of less land space available for agriculture. She said in light of this, the ministry is encouraging more greenhouse farming.
Its attendant benefits. We are embarking on rigorous research and development. We are looking at means of knowledge transfer in a bid to get more for less, reducing our food import bill, which has tremendous benefits of encouraging healthy diets, especially in rural communities. Healthier diets allow for a more active population, reduction in our healthcare bill, and increased productivity. Our diversification unit is, as we speak, working on a comprehensive strategy to make use of new and emerging opportunities within the sector. This we would shortly take to our stakeholders for further discussions and refinement.
The SVG Medical Marijuana Cannabis Authority has boosted its capacity to test the potency and composition of cannabis and a range of other products through its analytical service laboratory. During the media tour yesterday, the Minister of Agriculture, several board members and staff of the authority, including biotechnologist Dr. Jean-Saville Cummins and traditional cultivators, were on hand for the soft launch of the first analytical lab in SVG. The lab, which was established in partnership with the Miami-based company Validity, has seen the company supplying equipment and providing training for Vincentians who will function as lab personnel. There are also provisions in place for the remote monitoring of the lab's operations by Validity representatives who will operate between St. Vincent and Miami. According to CEO of the Medical Cannabis Authority, Dr. Gerald Thompson, the collaboration with the Miami-based company has enabled the authority to have a lab that is up to standard immediately. Dr. Thompson said the lab complements the aim of the MCA to position St. Vincent and the Grenadines to be a top-tier exporter of medical cannabis products.
Promise the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that our goal is to export product. We have product available here in St. Vincent. We could not export without having this lab, without being able to test it, without being able to prove that the quality is good, that there's no toxins and so forth. We can't just ship away just so. We have to be able to test, and having that certificate and that passport, for a product is absolutely essential. And so I'm really pleased that we have come this far, and we have to go much further. I'm expecting that some great things are going to happen, and that traditional cultivators in particular who've been waiting for these particular prospects could see products that they too have grown, and they have to up their game, can be purchased and so and be part of this whole new industry that is growing slowly but steadily as a quality industry here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Also celebrating the opening of the lab was Minister of Agriculture Sabota Caesar, who noted that the analytical lab will assist SVG in its quest to lift the standards of its products and produce.
They are not here only to deal with issues touching and concerning cannabis, but they are here to deal with issues touching and concerning our quest to lift all standards. I see a representative here from Rainforest Seafoods. That is a company out of Jamaica that will be opening its doors before the end of this year and will be employing over 50 persons to work. We're talking about jobs, talking about employment, we're talking about industry. We're not only talking about cannabis, we have to talk about fish.
Minister Caesar noted that prior to the lab's existence, the testing of products was difficult as they had to be sent overseas, and the turnaround time for the results could take from 3 to 4 months, withstanding the samples were not lost in the process. He celebrated the 1-week average wait time that it will now take to receive results. The analytical service lab consists of a variety of machinery that can test for heavy metals, residuals, microbacteria, and potency, just to name a few. It will begin its operations in the coming weeks. Medical Cannabis Authority disclosed that over 100 Vincentians have been able to access cannabis formulated products through their doctors.
Should know that medicinal cannabis is available in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and over 100 patients or close to it have actually been able to receive prescriptions and to use medicinal cannabis and gain the benefits for almost, over 20 qualified conditions that are legal here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And one patient met me the other day who had been having excruciating pain, back pain, and they told me that it put a smile on their face. You know what I mean? And that really, as a medical doctor, that puts a smile on my face too.
Dr. Thompson noted that several pharmacies on island have now begun carrying medical cannabis products. The police are investigating the circumstances surrounding a fatal accident that occurred along the Pembroke Public Road this morning. The police say, according to their investigations, at about 1:45 a.m., motor vehicle MVPY418, a red Suzuki Swift driven by Jariq May of Camden Park, was traveling along the Pembroke Public Road towards Buckermont when it lost control and ran off the road just above the Ace Hardware store located in that area. As a consequence, May succumbed to his injuries, while Nazir Barnett, a resident of Camden Park, who was a passenger in the said vehicle, sustained a broken arm. He is reported to be in stable condition and is currently nursing his injuries at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. A post-mortem examination is expected to be conducted on the body of the deceased. Investigations are ongoing. The Traffic Department of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force will be more strict with persons who are caught on the roads riding a bicycle without wearing a helmet. This warning was issued by Second in Charge of the Traffic Department, Inspector Parnell Brown, who told SVG-TV News in a telephone interview that they have noticed a recent increase of pedal bikes on the road, and from observation, more than 50% of cyclists do not wear a helmet, which he said is a requirement under the traffic laws.
There's a section of law, section 482 of the Traffic Act, which speaks about bicycle, and that section of the law speaks specifically about bicycle and how the bicycle should be ridden and what are the equipments that the bike and the rider should have. Now, the section speaks to the bicycle that it should be equipped with a bell to give other persons using the road a sense of warning as to their position on the road. The law also said that the bike should be equipped with two braking systems, one to the front and one to the back. The rider of that pedocycle must wear a helmet, and when riding at night, it should be equipped with a light to the front and a reflector to the back. And from observation, there isn't much of these persons who are riding these pedocycles are complying.
Inspector Brown further advised parents to ensure their children have the necessary safety equipment before taking their bikes on the road.
I'm advising parents who have their young sons or young children between the age 9 and 17, please, if you want to see your child or your children ride and not breaking the law, please equip them with a helmet and ensure that their pedal bike have the necessary equipment which deem them legit to ride on our roads. We have heard recent of a pedocyclist who lost his life in the Bel-Air area, and I'm advising you, please advise your child, your children, your friend, your brother, your sister to ride in moderation. Do not speed. Take them. You have to advise them to let them take their time and ride.
Earlier this week, a fatal accident along the Bel-Air Public Road claimed the life of a 15-year-old student. According to the police, about 2:30 p.m. on Monday, August 9th, motor vehicle MV-TB622, a white high-note truck owned and driven by Edward Joseph, a landscaper of Bel-Air, was traveling along the public road heading towards the spa when he struck Mark McDonald, a 15-year-old student, and Delroy Morgan, a 12-year-old student, both of Bel-Air, who were at the time traveling along the Bel-Air Public Road towards Fountain on bicycles. Mark McDowell was pronounced dead on the scene by the district medical officer, while Delroy Maloney escaped with minor injuries. The driver of the truck, a TB62, is assisting the police with their investigations. In other news, teachers of the Pitibadal Secondary School are pushing for students to improve in literacy and numeracy as the new school year approaches. Principal of the school, Heather Stewart, told SVG-TV News that students have been impacted by the eruption of volcano and have not had face-to-face teaching for quite some time, which was also due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and many have fallen back in their schoolwork. Students targeted for remedial work are those in Form 1, but according to the principal, other students from other forms are encouraged to participate in the 3-week program, which starts next week.
We have a gap right there, and we are hoping that if we do this program, the students who are in Form 1 currently, which would be moving to Form 2, would be a part of this program so that we will fill that gap. But I guess that's why the ministry refers to it as a bridging program. So, we fill that gap. In addition, there are students in the primary schools who would be coming into the school who also are on, that break and weren't able to log on and get the information that they really should have been getting. And we consider them coming to the school and wanting to do well. So what we decide as a staff is to create that avenue, that opportunity for those students who are now coming into the secondary school to be a part of the program. And we're hoping that the program will go for 3 weeks. So we do not expect that the children or students who participants who will become involved will learn everything. The reason why they had to be working so hard at that point, most of our students had difficulty with language, comprehension, composition, and it trickles through the grade for whatever reason. We recognize our parents need to get on board.
Parents are also encouraged to participate and support their children in this learning process, which involves art. The program is a collaborative effort between the Ministry of Education and the Yulo Arts Foundation. Theresia Glasgow is an arts and English set teacher who said that she feels it is necessary to engage students in a fun way of learning numeracy and literacy.
It's a non-profit program where teachers volunteer their services for free. And our aim for this is to enhance students' knowledge and capability in areas where they are lacking. So we are inviting parents and guardians to come along with their children to show support and to be a part of the learning process so that they can go home and continue to help their child or children with the studies. Yes, I'm looking forward to it because I'm a part of the voluntary program. I'm doing art, like the art business. Yeah. So I would help with the literacy studies because I'm a teacher and I teach like the English Lit and English languages and foreign languages also. So I would include that along with the art because I'm an artist as well.
Sharian Pear, another set teacher, said that art has helped her in many ways and she's happy to impart her knowledge to the students and parents.
What we want to do, we want to have them do, as I said before, portraits and sketches. We will teach them how to do those things. And for the craft, they will also learn how to do little things like key holders, make like handy stuff, pillows and different things. When I do art, it helps me to relieve stress. It helps me to think. It's just what I love. And I would like to have other people experience art because it's a delightful thing to learn how to do, and it's a very good skill.
Education stakeholders, including special education teachers and education officers, have received training in teaching for neurodiversity, building inclusive teaching and learning classrooms. The 1-week online course, which ran from July 19 to the 23rd, 2020, exposed educators to inclusive and culturally responsive practice supporting neurodiverse learners with autism. ADHD and dyslexia, as well as Universal Design for Learning. Approximately 80 participants completed the course, which was a collaboration amongst the Ministry of Education, the Authentic Caribbean Foundation, and training provider Leslie University of Boston, USA. Neurodiversity is a viewpoint that brain differences are normal rather than deficits, and its concept has benefits for kids and learning and thinking differences.